Are threaded channels any good? Now, it's too early to say, but there is one thing that's certain. Threaded channels add a lot more options for conversations in Microsoft Teams. This video is going to be a longer one. I'm going to start with some simple stuff that will show those of you who are here to learn about threaded channels how they work. Then I'm going to run through an initial comparison between our conversation options in Teams, group chats, threaded channels, and channel posts. Lastly, I'm going to make some recommendations about when to use threaded channels and what you should consider when introducing them to your team. I've got a few exercises that you might try out that'll help you work these things out for yourselves. So what are threaded channels? They're a new option about how conversations work within Teams channels. Microsoft calls them a layout for channel conversations. So now we have post layouts, which we've always had, and threaded layouts. Setting them up's pretty straightforward. Let's just try this out with a new channel. We've got our team called the New Office Project. We'll create a new channel and we'll call this Ongoing Discussions. And we have our usual options here, which are description, choosing the channel type. We'll stick with standard, recommending it, and have a look at this. Our choices of threaded or posts. Notice that threads are the default choice. So when we go through and create that channel, and there's our channel all set up and ready to go to use threaded posts or threaded messages. They're called messages here in threaded channels as opposed to posts, so keep that in mind. So you'd create your first message. Hi, team. This is a new channel. Cool. And the way that works is it's going to be a back and forth conversation. So what does this look like for a team member? Let's go over to look at Laura's experience, and we'll go into ongoing conversations. So this is a new channel. It has been recommended to show. Let's show it. Let's see what that looks like. And thanks, Microsoft. Great. Good to be here, Daryl. Right, back and forth, very much like a chat conversation. We'll check in and see some examples of how this works as we work our way through it and discover stuff. But the other option that we have is to change an existing channel to the threaded layout. And this means that we will edit the channel and we'll change that layout to threaded. Let's just see what that looks like for the first floor. Okay, edit the channel, change to threaded. Actually, let's have a quick look at what that looks like first of all. So here it is in posts. We've got a number of different posts here, conversations, replies, etc. What does it look like as we change it? Edit that channel, threaded, save it. The good thing about this move here is that we can change between threaded and post layouts. So if you try it for your team and you don't like it and it's not really working out for that channel, then you can change it back. But look at how it's changed it. So we have posts, and you saw that I was in the habit of putting subjects on posts in my posts layout. Now that it is in the threaded experience, then those same posts are messages with the subject. And the replies are all tucked away and they're in a thread. So we'll have a bit more of a look at that shortly. How do they work? Well, before we get a little further into that, there's one thing I do want to note, and that is that as threaded layouts are rolling out to organizations, some may still see the channel as a posts format. And this is going to make the posts look different. And that might explain why some team members aren't using subjects for their posts. They're actually replies from their point of view. So an example here, we saw Laura's experience using Teams on the desktop, and we have upgraded the desktop application so that she's got the latest, and that's why she's seeing the new experience. But if we bring over her experience here in the web, just get out of that, good. So we have the same channel that's now been changed to the threaded layout, but you see I'm still seeing it as posts. And if we looked at a channel that has started as a threaded layout and seeing how the team uses that, this is one that I created earlier called the support channel, and it has back and forth conversations, but what's really missing here is those subjects. So keep that in mind as you chop and change between the two. Now let's just go back and think about how these work. The threaded layout is intended to provide a chat style of conversation. You type a message in the channel and team members can reply in the top level of that channel. Let's have a look at our support channel here. So when I talk about top level replies, this is the first post in the channel, and a reply from Laura here is just back and forth, a bit like a chat. The reply in that top level channel, it's replying to, I guess, the main topic of the channel. Whereas you can also reply to a specific conversation. Here is a message in the threaded conversation or threaded channel, and there are 6 replies. So a good question to ask your team at this point, and hopefully you're asking this for yourself, is when would I reply just at this top level like Laura has here, and where will I reply to a specific message? Now, I believe that the channel name sets the main topic for the conversation. You post a message in a channel and you're discussing the main topic. In this one here, it is about providing support for the new office project. And notice here too that the posts or the messages in this threaded layout don't have subjects. Subjects are optional. By going to create a new message, there's no nudging here to show me I should be using a subject. But if I use the format button, I do have that option to add a subject. So this is something that you might consider as a team as you find out creative new ways and ways of working or etiquette about how you might use subjects. Maybe you're going to use them for announcements or communications to all team members. But notice here too that there is no announcement formatted post like we do see in posts, where you can get that sort of nice block of color, or you can put behind it a background image. So we know that putting a message down the bottom here will actually just add to the conversations and messages in the thread when we reply to a specific message. As we hover over it, we've got our usual options to react, but here it is to reply to this specific message, reply in a thread. Now what that does is it begins to start that conversation thread. I've got now a new panel that opens on the right, and this is all focused on replying to that specific message. And it might be that I am replying to what Laura is asking and sort of almost taking it off to the side as a conversation. Yes, we are still figuring it out, Laura. Okay. The threaded reply does a few things. Now, first of all, the thread gets its own space, as we see down here on the right, to have that conversation. Replies in this space are added to the thread without flooding the main area where the messages are in the main channel. Now, I like this because as I compare it to a group chat, that was part of the problem. You'd have multiple conversations and it would get flooded. You could really find it difficult to try and pair what was replying to who and where, and quote posts just didn't really feel like they were enough. So replying to a specific message creates the thread, gives us that space. The second thing that it does is that it will make me follow this thread. That means that any other replies to this thread, I'll get a notification for them. Let's try this out. So Laura might reply in her experience. Jump into support. Let's actually jump into the desktop experience of that. I could scoot up here and see where Daryl replied to Laura. Let's open up that response here, and I can say, great, thanks, I have feedback, Daryl. So now that I have replied to that thread and Laura is replying to me, I'm following that thread. She's mentioned my name, which is fine. I'll get a notification for that. But the act of replying means that I am following it. And how can I tell? Well, if I take a look at this message I've got open here, I've now got that indication I'm following this thread. Now, you see in this conversation that @mentions are still important. This conversation that Laura posted here, when she didn't mention anyone, and that meant that no one actually got a notification. It just sat there in the channel, and depending on how busy the channel is, it could just disappear up the top, a bit like how we see within posts in the post format. So @mentions are still important. When you do mention a team member, they are notified in the usual way. The name is emboldened in the message and they get the little symbol beside it to say that they have been mentioned. So that's that example right there. And when you mention someone in the thread, they're also made to follow the thread. So let's try this by mentioning Matt here in the thread as well. Matt, do you have some feedback? Switching back over to Matt, and we'll just do a little switcheroo here in terms of the desktop application. And we'll take a moment here to take a look at the followed threads as a quick way to get there. Matt has been made to follow this conversation and this thread simply by mentioning him. So here it is, and he is following the thread right there. Channel mentions still work in threaded layouts too. If you mention a channel in a message, then the team members who have the channel showing in the list will receive a notification, and they'll be made to follow the thread after that first reply. So an example of this I tried earlier, I created this thread, and further up here, I mentioned the channel support. Now, Laura was displaying or showing the channel in her channel list, much like I have here. And so when she received the message, she got the notification like we usually see with posts in the post format. And it wasn't a thread yet until someone else replied to this message. So there was nothing to follow. But once I did reply to that thread, then she got a notification for that reply too. And the thread then appeared in the followed list. So if we go back over and have a look at Laura's followed threads, then the thread that we're talking about is this one here, which is all about testing out this capability. Now, our other team member, Matt, was not showing the channel in his list, and so that was hidden, and he shared his experience that he did not receive a notification for the message because he was not showing the channel, so the channel mention didn't let him know that there was a message for him. The thread did not appear in the followed threads list, and he is not following the thread in an ongoing capacity, but he does have the option to follow it. So, to sum up, what do we know about following threads? Well, the person who originally posted the message follows the thread. That makes sense. Anyone that they mention in the message, @mentioned by name, or included in a channel or a team @mention, they'll also follow the thread, except when they're not showing the channel in their channel list. When a team member replies to a thread, they follow it. And when a team member is mentioned in a reply in a thread, then they're made to follow the thread too. You can also choose to follow a thread without being mentioned or replying to it. And anyone can choose to unfollow a thread so they won't receive any further notifications till they're mentioned again in the thread. So if we were over here as Laura and we were looking at this thread, I could choose to unfollow that thread. Even though I'm the original poster, maybe I've got all that I need out of this conversation and people can continue to discuss things on the thread until my name is mentioned and I'll be brought back into that thread again following it. And where do we catch up with these threads? There are two ways that we've just glossed over so far, but let's take a closer look at where we can catch up with our threaded conversations that we are following. In the chats and channels list, we have that new experience called followed threads. It's I guess you would call it a followed threads feed. And this is a focus list on just the threads that I am following across all the teams and channels that I'm a member of. This new feed is also available even if you're not using the threaded layout in any channels. It's quite neat that you can have a post format and be replying, and I guess that also makes you follow that conversation, and you can unfollow it from the followed threads experience here. So I might just trigger this next bit off here to help illustrate the point, but we'll go into planned outages and we'll mention @Daryl, I think we need to reschedule. Okay. So our followed threads list, when there is something new activity, then it is emboldened. And I expect this is going to be bold most of the time in busy organizations that use Teams. So that's kind of useful, but not really. It's really when you get into the list that it becomes more useful. Each item that they show the team logo. So I know that this one is the new Office team logo. I should have created a decent logo for that. We've also got the channel where that thread is discussed, and we've got a little preview of that initial message and then the last reply that was in that thread. And when I choose that thread to read, it is going to open up the thread, and it's also going to look at the most recent message. So it will scroll to the bottom in some of these longer threads, and the original content and discussion will be further up. Now, if you want to focus on just the message, maybe these columns and extra information are a bit overwhelming, there's a couple of options you have here. We can, using the three dots beside our thread, we can choose to open in a new window. Okay, so that's one way to do it, and a good way to have that thread, if you're monitoring it, open and alongside your work. Another way to focus on just the thread is using the go to conversation. So this just makes the whole space there take up the conversation. We don't have any additional columns. We can just work and read and reply from here, and when we're ready, we can go back to the channel by go to channel. So that'll show us our thread along the side and the top level or main messages in the channel. In a channel using the threaded layouts, the threads panel list will show all the threads in the channel. When I first visit it, here it is. It's open and it's got the latest thread there that I had open last time. But if I open just this threads panel, then I can see all the threads that are available in this channel that it's using the threaded format. And I can select which thread I might want to use and read. So I can jump straight into that and I can catch up with those conversations. Now you can still use the activity feed in Teams. If we take a look over here. So that's still going to be a place to see where you've been mentioned, whether mentioned personally, mentioned in a channel or a team that you're a member of. And if you've got your reactions turned on, then you might see those there too. But the followed threads is the better place to catch up on activity with threads. And so going back to our chats and channels view, you can work your way through those threads that you are following. If you find that maybe you're involved in a lot of conversations and you don't need to follow some of these anymore, maybe you're not interested in what's going on in those, then you can unfollow threads. So here's one about let me at mention, and I can choose to unfollow, and now I've got less to try and keep up with. I think that the followed threads list is a good place to manage these, to unfollow things that you want to just reduce that list so you can focus on the conversations that are important to you.